never light both candles. At 12:52 a.m., the stairwell candle was lit and the other one was not, but the unlit wick smoked as if it had just exhaled. The smoke slid downward, not up, and its shadow climbed the wall in a thin, patient line. I stood on the third-floor landing with my key half-turned in the lock and watched the flame bend toward the dark as if listening. That was my first night in the building, and I told myself it was draft, a trick of old air. The building was old enough to creak at the right names. It was old enough for a brass call box and a service stairwell that had been sealed with paint so many times the door looked poured into the frame. The hallway smelled like dust and lemon oil, and there were two shallow brass dishes set on the landing, each with a stubby white candle in it. One was always lit, one was always dark. The welcome note in my mailbox had been written in block letters on a thin index card. Light only one candle at dusk. Leave the other unlit. Do not blow the flame out. Pinch it. Do not say your name on the landing. If the unlit wick smokes, do not look down the stairs. If you hear your name from below, close your eyes and count to 9. There was no signature. The card smelled faintly of wax and old paper. The old neighbor across the hall, Mrs. Ivy, looked at the card and nodded like it was a grocery list. Everybody does it. Nobody wants to be the reason the building forgets how to be a building. I laughed then, because laughing was easier than asking what she meant. I had come for a quiet apartment and a cheap rent. The rule card went on the fridge under a magnet shaped like a fish. The first week was normal in the ways a place like that could be normal. A muffled radio on the second floor, a cat that watched the landing without blinking, a maintenance man who moved with the patience of someone doing the same tasks over and over. At dusk, a flame appeared in the brass dish as if by habit. The other candles stayed dark. The second week, I started to notice the things the card had warned me about. The unlit candle would sweat wax, and once I saw the wax bead on the wick as if the candle had spoken and then swallowed the word. The smell of smoke drifted out of the service stairwell and then stopped, like someone had pinched it off. I kept my eyes on my shoes and counted to 9. By the third week, I heard my name on the stairs. It was not shouted, it was breathed, a soft, exact sound from the dark below the landing. I shut my eyes and counted, my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. The air felt dense, like fog that had not finished becoming fog. When I opened my eyes, the lit candle was half shorter. The unlit one had a small black mark on its side, a smudge in the shape of a fingerprint. I asked the maintenance man about it. He didn't introduce himself, just came up the stairs with a toolbox and a flat, careful look. "You heard it," he said. "It was not a question. It just wants to make sure you exist. We give it a rule so it doesn't make its own." That night, I watched from my doorway as he lit one candle and left the other dark. He pinched the flame out with wet fingers as if he didn't trust his breath. He never said my name. The first real escalation came with the new tenant in 2B, a young man named Eli who moved in with too many boxes and a laugh that filled the hall. He took one look at the candles and shook his head. "Old buildings and their tricks," he said. I told him about the card. He joked about ghosts and went inside. The next morning, the service stairwell door had a fresh coat of paint, wet and glossy, and the paint had cracked in a line that looked like a smile. At dusk, the lit candle flickered toward Eli's door. The unlit candle smoked. Eli's laugh didn't fill the hall after that. He kept his door closed. He didn't stand on the landing when the candles were lit. He didn't say his name in the hall. When I saw him in the lobby, he looked past me as if I were a reflection late to answer. On the fourth night after he moved in, the building lost power for exactly 1 minute. The hallway went black, then emergency lights flooded the landing in a dim red. The candles should not have lit without electricity, but both wicks burned at once. 2 flames, 2 eyes. The smoke rose straight up and then bent toward the service stairwell, as if the air itself were a hand pointing down. I heard the old stairs shift behind the sealed door. It was not a creak, it was a long, dry shuffle, like someone unrolling a carpet of wood. The light in the hall stretched, and the door numbers on the landing slid by a fraction, as if the hallway had tried to count itself and gotten it wrong. The power returned. One candle went out on its own, the flames snuffed clean. The other kept burning, taller than it should be. The smell of wax was sharp enough to taste. I found a second card under my door the next morning. It was the same handwriting, the same blocky letters. If both candles burn, do not move. Do not run, it uses footsteps. Do not speak, it uses names. Do not look down the stairs. No signature again. I held the cards so tight my fingers hurt. I went to the basement that afternoon. The maintenance man was there, sitting on a folded chair by the boiler, rolling a candle between his palms. I asked him what the service stairwell was, and he looked at the floor a long time before he answered. It was a well, then it was a stairwell, then it was just a way down, and things that live below like a way down. He rolled the candle until the wax warmed. We keep 1 candle for us and 1 for it. If both are lit, it thinks there are 2 of us. It comes to count. He looked up. The building only has room for 1 set of people. It was the closest thing to a confession I got. I asked who wrote the cards. He didn't answer. He just pinched the candle out with wet fingers. That night, I watched the landing again. Mrs. Ivy stood by the candles, her hands folded. The lit candle leaned toward her, the flame drawn to her breath. The unlit candle was clean and smooth, untouched. She did not say her name. She did not look down. The mind-bending part came when I realized the building was helping the ritual. My floor number was 3, but the button in the elevator read 2. The directory in the lobby had my name once, and then on the next day it did not. The packages in the mailroom were missing my name in the final letters, like it had been erased softly from the end. I told myself it was a clerical error, but I was a careful person. I wrote my name everywhere, and it kept falling off the paper in my mind. On a rainy night, Eli knocked on my door. He held the unlit candle in both hands, wax running over his fingers like clear water. "It won't go out," he said. "It won't light either. It just watches." His voice was flat. "I think it wants me to light it." I told him not to. He looked past me down the hall. The air in the stairwell tasted metallic. The candles on the landing had not yet been lit. It was still too early. Eli stepped toward the brass dishes. "Eli," I said, louder than I should have. The hall felt like it inhaled. He stopped. The unlit candle smoked in his hands. "Do not say your name on the landing," I whispered, and I hated myself for whispering. My own name felt like it had been brushed away, like a smudged pencil. Eli looked at me with a thin, tired expression that did not belong on a face that young. At dusk, the maintenance man did not appear. Mrs. Ivy did not open her door. The hallway was still. Then it wasn't. A soft sound from below, like someone counting on a wooden floor. The unlit candle in the brass dish smoked. The lit one flared. The smoke slid down. Eli took a match from his pocket. He struck it once. The match hissed. The candle wick waited. I can tell you that I wanted to be brave and smart and good. I can tell you I believed the rules kept me safe. I can tell you I did what I thought would keep the building a building. None of that matters in the moment when someone you can save is about to do something that cannot be undone. I lit the unlit candle. The flame caught in a slow, hungry way. The hallway bent. The
The service stairwell door began to swell as if the paint were a skin trying to breathe. The air thickened. The floor below us was suddenly far below, as if a new set of stairs had unrolled down through the concrete, down through the old well, down through whatever had been there before the building. I did not look down, but I could feel its shape, a depth with edges like ribs. There was a sound like a page turning, and then the stairwell was in the hall with us, a shadow made of missing light. It was not a person, but it was the outline of a person pressed against the world from the other side. It had 2 eyes because we had given it 2 flames. Eli screamed, then stopped. I shut my eyes. I put my tongue to the roof of my mouth. I counted to 9, twice. The air did not move. The candles did not go out. I opened my eyes
and pinched the lit candle out with my fingers. The flame died with a tiny pop, like a breath cut short. The other candle stayed lit. The shadow in the hall thinned. The stairwell pulled away like a tide. When I looked at Eli, he was still there, but his face was wrong. His features were a fraction smoothed, like a portrait not fully finished. He looked at me and did not seem to know my name. In the morning, the building directory had an empty space where my name should have been. My phone would not accept my number when I tried to save it again. Mrs. Ivy passed me in the hall and nodded politely like we had never met. The maintenance man lit 1 candle at dusk and never looked at me. The unlit candle on the landing is smaller now, and the dark wick smokes when I walk past. I do not say my name there. I do not look down the stairs. The building has room for 1 set of people, and I can feel myself becoming the space between the names on the directory. If you move into a building with a brass dish and 2 candles on the landing, do what the card says. Light only 1. Leave the other dark. If both candles burn, do not move, do not speak, do not look down. It counts the names in the building, and it never stops at the last one on its own.